Hello, everybody. I'm Chris Lethem. This is ThinkTech Hawaii, and I'm with The Economy and You today. I'm your guest. I'm getting a little confused from my last show. This is The Economy and You, and today's guest is Bryan Jeremiah. Bryan Jeremiah is announcing his candidacy for Ewa Beach. Is that right, Bryan?
That's correct.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and so this is a little bit of work to get you on here. You're a busy guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Ewa Beach. Now, this is the district that was that's currently held by Representative Matt LaPresti.
That's correct.
Okay, and prior to that was Representative Rita Cabanilla.
Yes.
Okay, all right, okay. Interesting area.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of the neighborhood boards are very interesting. Neighborhood board meetings.
It is. It is.
They are. So anyway, you decided to run, and maybe you could give us a little bit about your background and sort of why you decided to run and why you feel like you would be a good representative for the district.
Okay. Well, a little bit about myself.
Okay.
I am married, and I'm a father of 5 children. I have 4 granddaughters.
Wow.
4 boys and a daughter.
Congrats.
And my family and I, we live in Ewa Beach. We've lived there for the past, going on 12 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the reason why I chose to jump into the ring as far as a candidate for Ewa Beach was the need that I felt for a more consistent and balanced type of government, primarily in regards to the 2013 special session that they had.
Right.
Regarding the same-sex marriages. So it wasn't that wasn't necessarily the driver. What it was the simple fact that when we sat in session at the state capitol,
Right.
I was really taken aback by, I'll just be honest, the arrogance and the just flat out inconsistency of our current legislator.
Did you feel like that? Did you feel like that they weren't listening?
Absolutely. I absolutely felt that way. And so did the thousands of other people that showed up and either gave testimony or were there in support.
Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of those reasons, when I started actively finding out more about our current legislator at the time and what was really going on and the interests of the community that was not being addressed, that really struck a chord. And I have 2 young children, so our youngest children are both 12-year-old twin boys.
Oh, okay.
And so they just entered into the 7th grade, and this is 2 years ago now.
Okay.
And for all those reasons, I thought this just wasn't right, and we need to do something to speak on behalf of the community.
Right. Now, the thing is that one of the challenging, of course, things about politics is a lot of horse trading that goes on.
Exactly.
There's a lot of pressure. There's peer pressure within the legislature. And sometimes, we sort of, because our legislator doesn't have a lot of balance between, say, Democrats and Republicans, there isn't really the competition of ideas that we need or I would say a lot of people feel that way, that there's not a competition of ideas. And we need that pushback. We need that balance in our legislature. Do you feel that way?
You're absolutely right. And for all those reasons, that is one of the most important factors that drove us into this race.
Mm-hmm.
Is because
now you said us.
Yeah. Well, me and my family.
You and your family. Okay,
so
very good. Yes.
This is
They're
not
with you.
me by myself. This is a effort of my family and I, and this is something that we vetted a long time ago when we decided to make this push. This will be our second go-around. The first time we ran in 2014, we were rather successful and we were surprised. Even by the simple fact that we had run for the first time, we had a really strong showing in the community and a great outpouring of support by the local residents.
And it's tough the first time you run a campaign.
It is.
You just
but it was
don't know
fun.
where you're going
fun,
with all the different things that you need to know about, like having a website and having a mailing list and walking the district and having somebody help you put together mail pieces. And, and figuring out who's voting for you, who's not, and it
was interesting for us because we were traversed some some uncharted territories for us, and it was fun though. I don't want to say it wasn't without its labor, but it was fun. When it was all said and done, we met some wonderful people in our community. We established some great relationships, some long-term relationships. We found out even more about the community and the concerns that people had that weren't really being taken to the legislature.
Hi, I'm Jay
or were not
Fidel.
being heard by the representatives, let alone taken to the local neighborhood board.
Yeah.
So that was a concern.
Yeah. So now, so where are you at now with your candidacy for this upcoming? Now we're about a year out, a little over a year out, where most people have to file their paperwork and everything.
Yes.
So where are you at?
Hi, I'm Jay Fidel. I'm host
decided
of
to run again.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, so you're already getting your engine rolling. You're getting things moving.
Yes. What the takeaways from the last electorate cycle?
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of great takeaways and some hits and misses. So
Yeah.
the areas that we were a little short in, we decided to make sure that we were well prepared this go around.
Okay.
So we're actively moving in the direction. We have formally announced our candidacy. We have not filed papers yet, and we probably won't until early next year.
Yeah, well, the rules change, right? Once you file papers, a whole new set of rules that you have to follow. That's right.
But we are, we are preparing diligently for another run. So we are actively in the community. We're already addressing residents. We're already, fielding questions and concerns, Q&A. We're getting involved with other arenas, more low-hanging fruit in the community with residents that have, distinctive concerns and questions that they want answered, and just taking note of that in preparation for our actual.
Well, I've met your wife. You have a wonderful wife.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful family.
Thank you.
And so now that you're doing this, what kind of things are you hearing from the community that they would like to see you focus on?
Well, it's interesting because there's a whole gamut.
Yeah.
I mean, I would think, because I have, like, for instance, you would have your own set of concerns that would really drive you or motivate you. Everyone has their passion that drives them.
Mm-hmm.
And it was unique for me because as I started asking these questions, I had really thought there would be, just a couple, maybe 4 or 5 bullet point ideas where people really wanted to focus on, but that wasn't the case. I mean, it was all over the map.
Yeah.
So people, they're concerned with traffic. Some other people are concerned with taxes. Other people are concerned with the high school. And other people are concerned with the beach park. So there's just there's a plethora of concerns out there for the community, but which is good because what it enables us to do is to prioritize the major concerns.
So now, with all of this, now your background is construction.
Construction management.
Construction management. Yeah. So do you feel like your role doing construction management is good for you? Because construction management, I would say, is often like herding cats.
It is exactly like herding cats.
Yeah.
It is exactly. Thank you for
cats that don't always show up for work.
That's exactly right. Thank you.
Yeah.
I couldn't have coined that phrase better. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So
it is. It's interesting because it's a totally different dynamic. You really there's no, you have guidelines as far as what you can do and what you can't do, but beyond that, I mean, it's anybody's guess.
Yeah.
Because you never know what you're going to get. You'll have people that they absolutely embrace you and they embrace the ideas and the things that they want to see done in the community, and other people will slam their doors on you and say, can't you read my sign? It says no soliciting. So it's, in reality, all you really want to do, like for me anyway, I want the community to know that we genuinely have their best interest in mind, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
And we really want to hear from them. We want to know what their concerns are so that we can work on trying to get them addressed. Even if it's just at the local level with the neighborhood board.
And you're with the best of intentions.
Yes.
With the best of intentions. And of course, the challenge is that people think that you want something from them.
Yes.
And when you're really just trying to figure out what it is that would help them.
And and Chris, what happens is that's the reason why we have poor voter turnout. Because a lot of people, there's this distrust amongst politicians or even those that are campaigning.
Now, you're telling me people don't trust politicians? Really?
That's a foregone conclusion.
Say it isn't so.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
But you know what I'm saying, right?
Yes.
So, people, they don't really want to hear anything because what they're concerned with most is that you're probably here just to get my vote, and once you have my vote, you're not going to do anything to help me.
Or to get this really extremely high-paying position at the legislature.
Yeah, which is a farce because they don't make any money.
Yeah.
So those that do it, I mean, the hope was that it was done completely as a public servant with the intent to serve the community and not special interests.
Yes. Well, there are people that come with an agenda.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that's unfortunate.
Yeah. And, well, sometimes the agenda is the agenda that they've developed from their community.
Yes.
Now, the question, of course, is that, one of the important skills at being a legislator is the ability to negotiate.
Yes.
Yes. Because, and I would imagine your job as a project manager, you're negotiating every day.
That's a 24/7 job at negotiating.
Yes,
We have multiple subcontractors, multiple vendors.
And everybody feels like they're the priority.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So now that you've taken on this role and you've decided to do it again, what are some of the things that you have learned? What are some of the mistakes that you make that you think you will do better or you've learned from your last campaign?
Well, I've learned not to listen to a lot of other people who've given me advice that really didn't work, first and foremost. Secondly, I learned that for me to really be successful is to really engage more with the community. And the two go hand in hand. As I said previously, other people were, you know, they would give really good advice. That was part of the success of a candidacy. But more than anything else, it's really about putting in the footwork
Yes.
to get in front of people and residents and really spend the time, you know,
I think,
talking to them.
I think the way you win a race like this is just outwork your opponent.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if you're out there and you're knocking on doors and you're talking to people, truly trying to understand the issues before them, and you're coming in with an open mind, I think that's when the people start to go, okay, this guy's listening to me.
You're right.
This
And,
gentleman
yeah.
or this lady is listening.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the takeaways from that I've learned, was to be more intentional on really spending the quality face time with the residents, which is why we're walking the neighborhoods now. I mean, as opposed to in a normal cycle, as I understood it, you know, people would start walking their neighborhoods roughly 2-3 months into the campaign, so say February, March time frame. We're looking at a 6-month window prior to that to already get into the neighborhood. We really want to speak to the issues, and we want to ask them, if you had a choice of representation at the state capitol, what would you want them to say? What would you want them to hear? What would you want your leadership to hear from you? What are what are the things that really strike a chord with you?
Yeah.
And then, so those are the things that we're trying to perpetuate now. We're trying to get out there and build these relationships.
So do you already have a sort of a list of ideas for bills that you'd like to propose?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna keep that under the radar because the reason for that, as you know, a lot of people, you know, they'll field these ideas and all of a sudden it becomes someone else's. So we're kind of keep that under wraps for right now.
Well, okay, very good, very good. So now, what do you want to do? Do you have sort of a vision of what you would like to what your role would be at the legislature, or what committees you think you would like to be a part of?
Well, planning and permitting, definitely. Anything having to do with development.
Because permitting in this state is an onerous, incredibly onerous task. Incredibly onerous.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, and it would seem to me, now, I don't know if it's just because the rules are so onerous. I don't know if it's because the people down out there are just holding everybody to the this absolute line. I don't know if it's the structure of the process, the structure of the way the bureaucracy is organized.
It's all of those things.
Okay.
And it really needs a major overhaul. The planning and permitting department in and of itself is archaic. The means by which homeowners, residences, commercial buildings have to seek out permitting for their projects. I've been up many years, and it hasn't gotten any better. Okay. So that's one area that we definitely have to concentrate on to try and see if we can streamline the processes.
Okay, very good.
To make it more effective for the residents.
And
then that generates revenue as well, because then people want to get involved.
And we get more businesses done.
Yes.
I'm Chris Lethem. We're going to take a commercial break. I'm Chris Lethem. This is The Economy and You, and we'll be right back. So stay tuned for more. Aloha.
Hi, I'm Jay Fidel. I'm host of Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, which is our flagship show, which plays 4 to 5 p.m. every Wednesday. And the supporters of that show are Hawaii Energy Policy Forum and Hawaii Energy. And luckily enough, we have representatives of both of them right here today to tell you more about what they think about the show. Sharon Moriwaki at my left is co-chair of Hawaii Energy Policy Forum, and she goes first. Sharon?
Thank you. Thank you, Jay. I'm so glad that we have this Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy. This was 2 years ago when we started this, and we have continued it because it's so important, and there's so many developments happening across the state. We hope you'll tune in every Wednesday, 4 to 5. It's wonderful.
And Ray is Hawaii Energy. Ray, what is your thought about the same subject?
Well, I agree completely with Sharon that we are talking about every Wednesday, 4 to 5. We talk about some of the most important subjects that are affecting the islands now and into the future. Energy, clean energy. We need it. We often run into new ideas that we had not thought about before. We did just today, and I think we're going to have more of that in the future. So come on down and watch us 4 to 5 on Wednesdays, and we'll see what happens.
We'll see you then. Aloha.
Aloha.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Chris Lethem. This is The Economy and You. Today's guest is Bryan Jeremiah, Republican candidate. You're announcing your candidacy for, what's the district? House
District 41.
House District
41.
41, okay. Now, is that just Eva Beach, or does that include more than Eva Beach?
It's Eva and Eva Beach. So if you were to look at from a topography, it encompasses, for those of you that are familiar with the Eva Plain, basically from the New Queens Hospital all the way down to Eva Beach Park, which is at the back end of Fort Weaver Road.
Okay.
On the right-hand side of the street. So Fort Weaver it's interesting in the fact that that's actually a hard line that divides 40, 41. There's some segmented other districts that are tied in there, but 40 and 41
That's
are
pretty much the barrier.
that's
That's
pretty much the
the border. Okay, all right. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit, we were talking about the problem with, you're thinking you would like to sit on the housing or develop, what's it called? The
Planning and permitting.
Planning and
yeah,
permitting?
Development, well,
Yes,
I mean,
development,
just.
housing?
Yeah, just something
Okay,
that has to
something
do
along those
with,
lines?
with forward progress on the issues that are plaguing us right now with development.
Well, Eva Beach is an interesting area because there is a development going on. You've got Haseko out there doing development. There's this big dispute over this idea that we're going to put a
Resort,
a marina.
yeah.
That's not happening. Haseko has now had to reimburse. I guess there's a judgment order. They're going to have to reimburse some of the people who bought homes based on those promises.
Right.
Is that right?
Well, there was a judgment recently
Yeah.
in favor of residents of Ho'okale that was back to 2012. Those residents that had occupied homes from 2012 and
Right.
earlier.
Okay.
There was a judgment in favor of them that went towards a ruling against the marina. But there's still a lot to be said about that, so I wouldn't be the responsible party to share that information at this
Okay.
moment.
But that's part of the controversy in the
That
area.
is.
So
That's
it's
just that's a
definitely-
portion of
That's
it.
a
Yeah,
small
that's a portion
part of it. Yeah, yeah.
A big part of another part of it ties into Oniula Beach Park because a lot of the community is in uproar over the concerns that the Haseko Corporation has, earmarked Oniula Beach Park, which is affectionately known as Hau Bush, to be part of that resort. Part of that also is tied in with 2 potential resorts that are going to be built
So
within the footprint near the marina.
Is there consternation as to whether or not that would be good for the community? Is that part of the concern?
Yes, well, from Ho'okale's standpoint, from Haseko's standpoint, they're saying that it'll generate jobs for the community, which is true. I mean, a lot of local people will no longer have to leave the Eva Plain. They can go to work there, especially those that are in the hotel trade and,
Yes.
industry, UPW and such. But at the same time, at what cost? So we're trying to weigh that out. This past weekend, there was Councilwoman Kimberly Pine held an event at Oniula Beach Park
Okay.
to just bring some awareness to the community as to what was going on with that, separate from what's going on with Ho'okale, the Haseko project, and more information on the potential resorts that are going to be built there.
So how would you say the sentiment currently is? Is it more in favor of the development, or is it a lot of people, is there a lot of pushback at this point?
It's a mixed bag, honestly, but I would have to say that there are less in favor than there are less that are in favor of the development than there are those that are that favor the development.
And what would be just off the top of your head, what do you think is their primary concern?
Well, the primary concern is that a lot of the information is coming from the developer is vague and ambiguous, so we're really not clear as to the letter of the language when it speaks to specifics as to, ocean shoreline setbacks that determine where the resort can actually be placed in proximity to the shoreline. And then tie it in with the fact that Oniula Beach Park sits, right there in front of it.
you think there might be some limitation of access by the people who live
That,
in
and
the
that's
area?
the concern. The concern is that it actually will turn into a resort-style
Mm-hmm.
environment that's only accessible through one major thoroughfare, and that it
Mm-hmm.
makes it inaccessible to local families in the community.
Because when I look at where Disney has built their resort there in Kapolei, and I've been out there, and I feel like when I go out there on the beach, I'm intruding.
Yeah.
I have that sense of, oh, I'm intruding on the resort, instead of, here's a resort, and this is, I'm part of the community
Right,
here, and I
right,
should
right,
be
right.
able to enjoy
Right.
it. The way they built it, the structures, the sort of the barriers to entry and all this sort of thing, it feels very uninviting at this point.
Right.
So I would say maybe there's some lessons to be learned from that, so that we make sure that it feels like it's inviting to the public.
You're absolutely right, and that's part of the concern, because a lot of the residents, their concern is that it turns into another Colina,
Mm.
which, it's great once you're down there, but there's, a lot of rules and regulations and restrictions, and there's very little parking, which makes it, not user-friendly.
That's right.
And so for a lot of the people that are born and raised in that community, that are used to going to the beach at a whim's notice,
Mm-hmm.
pack up the car, go to the beach, pull up on the shoreline, and they're
Yeah,
fishing.
you fish and relax and enjoy yourself.
They love that, and they want that
Yeah.
to remain,
Yeah.
And so for them, that's the biggest sticking point with
That's right.
with that whole Haseko, Oniula, city and county development and
Right.
maintenance.
And if you're a teenager, you got nowhere to go smooching, you got no smooching.
They cut the bushes down.
So, no privacy anymore. What are you going to
No.
do about that? Yeah. So I think these are, the challenges that we have with development. And as we continue to development, what we want is smart development in Hawaii. I think Jay Fidel has sort of, he's talked a little bit about the nature of the development that's gone in Kaka'ako. We built these very expensive properties that really don't benefit the economy of the local community, only make money for the people who buy and sell the real estate, not necessarily creating that sense of community, because it's all high-end stuff.
You're absolutely right. And
Yeah.
what's happening with the development, and especially Kaka'ako, and that has a lot of rippling effect towards the outlying communities.
That's right.
When you get out to the Leeward Coast, a lot of people are afraid of that.
Mhm.
Because, the facts are the facts. Majority of the high-rises that were built are well outside the means of any local family.
Yes.
Two income earners.
Mm-hmm.
To even obtain or even to realistically think about purchasing. So what happens is people come from outside of the state, and they're vacation rentals, these guys are wealthy. I don't fault anybody for doing it, but the problem is that you drive the local people out
You are
of that
driving
market.
you're driving the local people out of the market, or they're the people in the local market who have the means are speculating
Exactly.
in the market. They're not necessarily moving into there. They're buying them as an investment property.
And so what happens is, like yourself, you're buying
Yeah.
investment properties, and a lot of families, you see them moving back in with families because they just simply cannot afford. The medium home prices are upwards of around 650, 700,000.
Yeah,
Most people cannot afford that.
that's and
Even
if
two
we,
income earners.
if we had the wages in San Francisco, and we're living on that kind of economy, okay.
Yeah, yes.
Right. Okay. But we're not.
No.
We're living on this economy where the pay is like the pay in the Midwest.
And this, unfortunately,
Yeah.
Chris, this has a rippling effect all the way down. From a financial standpoint, you look at the homelessness. A lot of it is due to that.
Mhm.
People simply cannot afford to live in their own home.
That's right. And what most people don't realize when we talk about the homeless population, yes, there are certain individuals, like the people who have mental deficiencies and
Yes.
the substance abusers, that stand out. But we have the majority of our homeless population are senior citizens.
Yeah.
That's the majority of our homeless population. These aren't people that are looking for a handout or wanting to sit on the corner and beg. They're just not able to afford to live,
You're
to
absolutely
have a
right.
place to live any longer. So we do need to address that problem. And I think, of course, along the rail route, we've talked about building more high-density housing, micro-housing, and things like that. But, that's going to take, is that going to take 10 years,
Yes.
15 years? How long is that going to take? Look how long it's taking us to build the rail.
Well, and we still don't know the outlying cost of what the rail is going to be.
Yes.
So, like for me, many people have asked, what is your position on it? Well, I support the work that it provides our local families.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm a union employee myself, support the unions. I do not support the idea that we wrote a blank check. Just go ahead and, because in a perfect environment, in a well-orchestrated project,
Yes.
you have a cost estimate to build your project.
Well, what I don't understand is why they didn't put options, get options first on all the property with preset pricing, with pricing already in place,
Right.
by putting option contracts into place. If they had done that, there wouldn't be this sort of haggling that's going on now, because they're still haggling over what they have to pay for the
Right.
property. And this, of course, creates litigation and all sorts of other nonsense. So it would have seemed to me, it would have been much more prudent to go ahead and get options on all this property, and say, okay, here, this is what we're gonna give you, okay? Here's an options contract to hold the property until we get this thing resolved. And at that point, exercise the options. The prices would have already been determined. That's my thought.
No,
Okay.
and you're right, and there's a lot of individuals that share that sentiment.
Yeah,
You know, they just really wanted, yes, they did agree that rail was a good option because of the traffic.
right.
But contrary to popular belief, it wasn't, the people all voted for this. Because what's existing now is not what the people had supposed was gonna be the case.
Well, I had thought it would have gone by the, and to me, it would have made sense to go by the airport, bring people into Waikiki or to the university area.
Yeah.
And maybe that will come in time, I don't know, but at least on this leg, I've still scratched my head about why it's not going to the airport.
And we'll see, only
Yeah.
time will tell exactly
That's right.
whether we
That's
recover
right.
or we
Yes.
end up deeper into that.
Well, now, some of the things that we have to look at too is, in the community there is the high school.
Yes.
Now, is that high school set up, I mean, one of the challenges, I think it needs to expand because there's more kids in the community.
Well, currently, there's 900 students that are from the Everplain that
Uh-huh.
rightfully belong at Campbell High School that are attending Kapolei High School because we simply don't have the room. We've expanded by about 35% in the past several years.
Uh-huh.
So now classroom size is exploding beyond capacity.
Now, is the Board of Education just unable to plan and get things done?
Well, it comes down to legislation again. So, I mean, simple fact is, if you take a seasoned, legislator like Joe Suki, they got money to build Maui High School. I believe it was several $1 million in double digits to build a brand new high school that's not needed up there.
Uh-huh. Well, McKinley High School has a brand new track. Now, it's a really expensive track.
It's
very
a
nice track.
very, very, very touchy subject for the families in Ewa Beach.
Uh-huh.
Because the school was built in 1962.
Uh-huh.
We're already severely overcrowded. The school is old as far as infrastructure. So even if they were attempt to put in new utilities, photovoltaic, you name it, it would cost an outrageous amount of money to do that. There's no room on the footprint to expand. And
So if
honestly,
they're gonna build, they gotta basically knock something
you
down
gotta
and
build
build
up.
up.
Yeah, you gotta build up in
build
areas.
up.
And then there's really hasn't been any well-vetted plan to do any work. The Department of Education recently released a couple of portables that came from Pahoa on the Big Island that were gonna be used in the event that the lava flow knocked the school down.
Oh,
That never happened. So, this is a great gesture.
Uh-huh.
They said, we got a couple portables for the Everplain. You guys can use them
yeah,
over
but
here.
that's a Band-Aid.
It's a Band-Aid. But
That's a
what it
Band-Aid,
did,
yeah.
unfortunately, Chris, is
Uh-huh.
what it did was it took away priority from the big ticket item, which was really the reconstruction and renovation of Campbell High School. So now they look at it as we've done all we need to do for a while.
For now, okay. Well, we're gonna take another break and we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that we need issues that we need to address infrastructure-wise in Ewa Beach. How's
Thank
that?
you.
I'm Chris Lethem. This is The Economy and You, and today's guest is Bryan Jeremiah, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Ethan Allen. I host Likeable Science on ThinkTech Hawaii, and I do this because I care about science literacy in Hawaii. I want to spread the understanding that science is a vital and interesting part of everyone's life. I want to make sure the broadest possible spectrum of people understand the beauty and the value of science and realize that science plays out each and every day of their lives. I want you to understand that science is fun. So we bring onto this show each week guests who are scientists, from astronomers to zoologists, and we talk about what they do and how they do it. But most importantly, we talk about why you should care about their work, why you should see that their work has value and impact on your life. So I hope you'll join us Fridays 1 p.m. here on ThinkTech Hawaii. You can watch us via live stream. You can watch us recorded on Olelo, and you can see us each week. We hope you'll join us.
Welcome back, folks. I'm Chris Lethem. This is The Economy and You. Welcome to our last segment. Today's guest is Bryan Jeremiah, and we're talking a lot about the things that we need to get done in Ewa Beach.
Correct.
Right? And so one of the challenges is an old school. The high school is old.
Yes.
It needs some infrastructure improvements.
Correct.
It doesn't have air conditioning at this point?
No, it doesn't.
Still doesn't have air conditioning. Now, you're out on the Ewa Plain. That's hot out there.
Yes.
It's hot.
Yes.
How do these kids stay awake and study?
Well, that's been difficult. And there in Ewa Beach Elementary School, one of the teachers actually passed out and had to be taken out by ambulance because it got so extremely hot. And as you realize, the past couple months or so, it's been really muggy and
Yes.
incredibly, stiflingly humid.
Yes.
Because of all these, potential hurricanes and storms that are going.
That's right.
by.
They're bringing a little humidity in.
So it was.
humidity
I
in
mean,
town.
it was stifling. It was really, really, really bad.
Uh-huh.
So, hats off to some of our representatives who actually took the initiative and got some fans for the school and such.
Mm-hmm.
But it really is, it's a disingenuous effort towards actually resolving this bigger problem.
So they can't put air conditioning in because the electrical systems are also old.
And it's going to cost a lot of money to upgrade it. There was recently an upgrade for the electrical system at Campbell High School.
At Campbell?
Yes, but however, they need, when we were looking at ACs, we've now gotten to the level where the ACs are needed, but even more than that is classroom space because we've just absolutely exploded. in numbers.
Is there any place to say put solar panels out there where you could get air conditioning systems powered with solar energy?
That's what we're looking at. So we have a small, there's a small community of residents and legislators that are trying to look at different proposals for grants and such that will allow us to potentially do maybe not a solar farm, but maybe solar covered parking, structures that are out on the open areas that exist now.
Well, they've got these interesting, I don't know if you've seen these interesting little tiles that they put down in driveways that actually that generate solar power.
Yes.
And I just thought that was just an amazing piece of technology. And at this point, of course, it's underutilized because it's still relatively new.
That and then like solar ACs, they talk about that as well because solar ACs, you take complete, advantage of the sun without having to be tied to the grid. But a lot of these things, the technology is new, so there's a apprehension to actually dive into that because one, it's costly. Two, it's not, it hasn't been proven for a period of years.
Yeah, but solar panels have become much cheaper now, right?
So there's all these things on the table, but the problem is at the end of the day, in order to actually get Campbell up to speed, which is what we're trying to do, you're looking at anywhere between $20 to $40 million. And our legislation is just not prepared or going to even take steps in that direction to allocate that type of money.
That's a large allocation.
Yes, because it needs to be. Because we're talking about a 10-year fix, which is to build another high school, 10 years from now. Or what happens to the children from now to 10 years?
Well, of course, you're shifting kids around between Campbell and Kapolei.
And all
now,
of
are they busing the kids? Are they busing them?
I'm not sure if they're being bused or they're, they're being taken down or driving down themselves.
Oh, okay. Now, let's talk about the traffic issue, because Ewa Beach traffic, it's now, I mean, we're now considered one of the worst traffic, states with the worst traffic problem in the nation today. And that's coming right out of your territory, Ewa
Well, it's
Beach.
almost like a trial run on your way to get into the actual traffic.
Yeah.
Because coming out of Fort Weaver is a nightmare. It really is a nightmare.
It is.
And, hats off to the city who has resequenced some of the lighting, which has helped some of the flow of traffic. So that's been great. But as you stated earlier, we're still a growing community.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still developing residential homes there, not just with Haseko, but Gentry is also developing homes.
That's right, they're
And an
developing homes as well.
industrial development directly across from Haseko, but Haseko. So there's more residents being built in that plane, and that's going to add to the traffic.
Of course, yes. That just adds to the congestion, yes.
And, people are, they're creatures of habit. They like to drive their own cars.
So, do you have any ideas or thoughts?
Well, we
about
talked
this?
about this in the neighborhood board. I'm also a member of the neighborhood board. So one of the things we talked about was a contraflow lane that takes traffic out of Eva in the AM, up to up at least to the freeway where it can get, you gotta jump in the traffic with everyone else.
All right.
But at least it gets a lot of the traffic flowing up and out onto the main surface streets
Okay.
and
Okay.
freeway.
Because I don't know how much more wide, how many more lanes we can put on that H1 freeway at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's one of the widest freeways I've ever ridden on.
It's
driven on it,
it's
yeah.
pretty taxed as it is.
Yeah, as it is, yeah. So I guess rail will be, if we get rail in, it will provide some relief for those people that have to commute into the city. But don't we need to, but going back to one of the original concepts of a second city, is that actually a reality? Are we building a second city?
Well, I think the intention is that we're heading in that direction, but is it there now? No, it's
No.
not. We're nowhere near that. The idea was, and the intent was always that the people in the Eva Plain or in the Leeward Coast would be able to live and work in the vicinity.
Right.
So it would alleviate a lot of traffic. Unfortunately, there is some development that, allows for that, but
Does there need to be a bigger investment in commercial
I would
infrastructure?
Yes, I would say
Okay.
so, yes.
How about technology? What's your thoughts about technology?
Well, I mean, like, say you get an IBM or a Google or
Yes.
some type of shop like that that's developed out there. You'd be able to hire a whole bunch of people that were,
Because there's always concern with Hawaii that we have a brain drain, and I speak for this. I'm a software developer, and it's difficult to find work right now. But there's a lot of people here with skills.
yes.
Yes, a lot of people have left because they've gone to the Bay Area. They'd
There's no
rather
work
be
here,
here,
yeah.
but they would rather be here,
Yeah.
but for the lack of jobs. So I think if Google or if Intel or any of these large companies decided to come and set up shop in Hawaii, and I think we actually have a great location. We are where East meets West.
Yes.
And I think if Hawaii were to invest in that kind of commercial infrastructure, that we could attract those large companies, I think we could bring a lot of those really smart kids that we've educated
You're absolutely right,
home
Chris.
again.
You're absolutely right. I think that the biggest challenge to that, and the reason why you don't see a lot of business here, is because of the taxes and everything else that is anti-business
Well,
in this
I want you to get
environment.
into the permitting office and or get engaged in streamlining the permitting process. As somebody who's engaged in small business in Hawaii, I can tell you how taxing that is, and the level of frustration that you have trying to get something permitted and built. Just a small mom and pop shop even. It's so onerous and it's so frustrating because there's so many little details. Now maybe that means we have to go back and look at the legislation and provide guidelines instead of very specific things that have to be accomplished, but set guidelines or maybe even have a thing where you have to accommodate 10 out of 12, or here are the priority things, or here are the things that you need before you open up a shop, and here's the things that you need to get eventually.
Exactly.
So that you can get the shop open. You can start to have business, generate revenue.
Oh, it would help it streamline because when you go to approach the permitting process, a lot of these boxes have been checked already.
Yes.
And so that way it streamlines the actual time that it's spent in department being
Yes.
approved.
Yes. I think there's another issue too, is something called the certificate of need. Here in Hawaii, we have this thing called the certificate of need.
Yeah.
Like in certain businesses, especially in the medical field, you have to go before a board and get the certificate before they're allowed to open up shop. To me, that seems very anti-competitive. And I would like to hear the argument for why we have to have businesses our business, a medical business, needs to have a certificate of need before they can open up shop and do business in Hawaii. Yes, it means there's more competition, but competition grows the economy.
Yes.
I don't like the idea of a few fat cats having all the privilege and then locking out other people that want to come in and do business in Hawaii, because those people coming in innovate. They cause innovation to occur because now there's competition in the marketplace.
And that creates jobs.
And that creates jobs,
Absolutely.
and that creates good jobs,
Right.
and that grows our economy.
And competitive,
Yes.
good, clean competitiveness amongst
Yes.
businesses.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You talked about government dependency a little bit. One of the issues when we talk about the government isn't really operating at full, at 100%. And so I wanted you to talk a little bit about what you notated as government dependency.
Well, unfortunately, we are the largest dependence on welfare
Yes,
in the nation,
yes.
hands down. And the government has really done us no favors by opening our floodgates to immigrations from Micronesia and other people. Not that it's bad, but we've become the land where we'll send everybody to Hawaii. And it's really put a burden on our ability to take care of our own people. And so what that's done is it's created an environment where people have become passive. Why look for work, even minimum wage, when I can just go on
Government assistance.
Government assistance, and they're going to take care of me.
Yeah.
And so, and then we have this driver, which is the current leadership, you know, from the national and local level, that just keep perpetuating it.
Do you think that we should be putting, if we're going to have government, we're going to provide help to people, that we should incentivize success? One of the challenges that I see is that people are basically, they get on the welfare system, and if they get a job, if they start to do things well, we pull the rug out from underneath
And then we penalize
them,
them.
and then we penalize them instead of saying, okay, you're doing well, you're
Let's
getting
slowly
there,
wean you
you're
off of
slowly
this.
getting up, but
Yeah.
we want to get you all the way up,
Yeah.
get you mainstreamed into the economy. And so instead of just giving you a place to stay and such, maybe what we need to do is focus on getting you education or some technical skills,
Yes.
so that you can get a job that has a value-added component to it, rather than just doing basic labor.
Correct. A skill set.
A skill set.
deliberate skill set.
Yes.
That allows them to be competitive in the market, allows them to actually, you know, set goals for themselves and their families, and to look for wage earning jobs that work hand in hand with their skill set. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the problem, and I think part of the problem is we're not, as a whole, we're not tracking this, you know, our funds that are going out there. So we're being financially responsible with the monies that are being generated here when we go through this process of just handing it out.
So maybe we need to look at the process by which we
Absolutely.
do this. Yeah.
I think if we do that, then there's a lot of opportunity for us to streamline the use. I mean, all of these things really, Chris, they go hand in hand. I mean, if you're looking at it from an economic standpoint, you know, when you invite business, then everything shrinks.
Yes.
The homelessness shrinks. The dependency on government shrinks. All of these things, because people become more self-dependent rather than government dependent.
Yes.
And so that's what really we're striving for. So kind of getting back to, I know this is off topic, but
I know, this
getting
is
back
good.
to the reason why we're running, because
Yes.
you know we don't believe that, you know, a complete conservative approach is the answer, nor do we believe that a complete liberal approach is the answer. But somewhere in the middle, there has to be a happy medium where we're working together to generate enough support within the community to drive these elements, our
Yes.
economy, drive, you know,
Yes.
the homelessness down, drive the use and dependency on government. I think once we get there, then what we do is we create an environment where people are proud again. They're happy and they're
Well, you know,
excited.
people want to contribute. I think people generally want to work and contribute because I think it gives them a sense of self.
Yes.
And a sense of importance. I think it's too bad when people sort of move into that mindset where they're living off the government, because they lose something of themselves.
They do. They absolutely
Yes,
do.
yes.
And we become complacent, and we continue to perpetuate
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Well, I would like to have people support if people would like to support your candidacy, how can they reach out to you? How do they get a hold of you? Talk to you by phone, by email? How do they reach out to you?
Well, the best thing to do right now, you can visit us on Facebook. So we have all the social media, because
Okay,
this go
good,
around,
good
it
for
works
you.
really, really well.
Great, great.
And so, you know, we have about 1,200 people that are following
So
us
what's your Facebook
It's
site?
Friends for a Better Eva.
Friends for a Better
Yeah,
Eva.
so that's separate from our campaign page. So I
Okay.
would prefer people to, if they want to get a hold of us, visit our community page first.
Okay.
So you can see all the issues that we're currently targeting, all the things that are relevant to our community, and then you can find out the things that are driving our community.
Now,
right
can they leave comments?
Absolutely, absolutely. They
okay,
can
so you
contribute to it.
Okay.
There's information also that will drive you directly to our campaign webpage.
Okay, very good. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
Chris.
very
Thank
much,
you.
Brian, for
Appreciate
coming on
your
the
time.
show.
Thank
I'm
you.
Chris Lethem. This is The Economy and You, and thank you for watching, folks, and we'll see you next week. Aloha.